interesting conversations lead to better relationships, more friendships, more opportunities, more fun. And honestly, like when something is being communicated with passion and with enthusiasm and excitement, it literally doesn't matter what it is. It can be interesting. People are like, oh, what if you forget what you're talking about whilst you're speaking, or you don't get to the point? A conversation is not a line, it's a mind map. Make it fun. Communication and connecting with people is supposed to be fun. And if you don't enjoy it, learning to make it more fun for you is how you can get stuff out of it. I think fun is genuinely the secret sauce to everything. Hi everyone, welcome to the Empower Sounds podcast. My name is Mahika, and today we're going to talk about how you can have an interesting conversation with literally anyone. Now, why is this an important skill? Because interesting conversations lead to better relationships, more friendships, more opportunities, more fun, potentially dating opportunities. And yeah, like I said, it just opens up so much more connection, and it's more enjoyable, even if you're doing it in the context of networking or meeting new people at a house party or at work or on holiday or whatever. And the reason I'm giving you this advice is because I have this podcast, and so I've spent the last 2 years interviewing people, and I think it's made me better at having good conversations. And I was at the pub yesterday, and everyone was having the most boring, socially scripted conversations of, what's your name, what do you do for work? Literally, I met like 40 new people because it was like a salsa thing, and everyone went to the pub afterwards, and it was, hello, what's your name, what do you do for work? It was so boring. And I feel like I really enjoyed my conversations after a while when I realized I don't have to follow the script. And I created my own script, and I started to go off the normal script. And then I realized, like, I don't have to follow the conventions. And this goes for networking events. If you hate networking events and you find them really, really awkward, I think these tips will help you. If you don't like talking to new people, you're a little bit shy, I think these tips will help you. And these are things I wish I knew sooner, honestly. So number one is, when we meet new people, we often try and find common ground with them. So this could be mutual friends or mutual interests and that kind of thing. And that's great, because conversation and communication experts say that you want to create me too moments in a conversation, which basically means that you say something and the other person is like, oh my God, me too. So in creating that, you try and say like, oh, like, who do you know? And all that kind of stuff. But I think what's more fun and what's more rewarding is if you try and learn something from every new person that you meet. So when you have a conversation with them, you assume that they have something that they can teach you that's really interesting, because every person has really specific knowledge. It could be about their culture, their country, their job, their hobbies, their interests, and they will be different to you, and there will be something that you can learn from literally anyone. And the better you get at asking questions, the better it will be to have this. And the more you get someone to talk about something that they're actually really passionate about, the more fun it is, because you see them really light up and they offer more information, so you don't have to just sit there and be like, cool. And honestly, like when something is being communicated with passion and with enthusiasm and excitement, it literally doesn't matter what it is. It can be interesting. And so how to ask good questions. This is also something that I've learned as an interviewer through my role. So asking good questions. One of the most important things is, like, first of all, asking open-ended questions. So rather than just yes and no questions, asking people more open-ended questions. And then also when they respond, there's this technique called cherry picking, where this is something I do in my interviews. They say something and then you use something that they said in their response to ask them sub-questions about it. So if they say something about, like, for example, let's give you an example. I did my dissertation on salsa dancing, and I did it on like migration and movement, and then someone could ask me, oh, you did it on salsa dancing, like, what prompted you to do that? And so, like, people's favorite thing is when you communicate to them that you're listening to them. The thing that people like to hear the most after their name is that their take is valuable and that you actually care what they have to say. And so when you do that, and when you're asking a question, repeat back something from what they said, not in like a weird way, like not in a Siri, ChatGPT way, but in a way to prove that you're actually listening, is so important. Also body language, make eye contact. I know that's kind of scary, especially sometimes if you suffer with certain things related to neurodivergence. Eye contact can be really, really scary, but you don't have to stare into their soul the whole time. Just have like little moments of making eye contact, and then you can like look down, or you can look between their eyebrows if you don't want to make direct eye contact, but you want to look like you're making eye contact. And what else? You want to have your hands exposed, so don't put them like crossed. Don't sit on them if you're sitting down. Don't have them under the table. Like, just have them like, because it communicates like openness. And what other things with questions? Ask sub questions and genuinely be interested. If you don't care what they're saying, then swerve it into a topic that you're actually interested in, and learn to talk about your passions and interests in a more descriptive way. Sometimes when we tell a story, we don't tell a story in like an engaging way. We just describe it. You'll say, this happened at this time and this is what it meant. But people are sensory, and so tell them about like the experience. How was it? Make it visual for them, and you will have practice with this. And if you actually want to study the way that you communicate, look back at videos of you talking, and you can see, this is how I move my hands. This is how I make like my facial expressions. This is how I've become a better communicator through the podcast. Because when I first started 2 years ago, I think I said and a lot more. I think I didn't feel as comfortable in my voice, and in terms of questions, because it was on Zoom, I had like questions on one side while I was having the conversation. Now I can be fully present in the conversation. I obviously do my research on my guests beforehand, but when it actually comes down to sitting down and having the conversation, I have no notes, no script, no nothing. I just know enough information about the person and then how to have an interesting conversation. So number one, ask yourself, instead of what do I have in common with this person, what can I learn from this person? And to unravel that, if people aren't volunteering that to you, you have to ask good questions. Asking good questions is cherry picking, sub questions, and like making sure that you actually show that you care about what someone is saying. If you don't care, then maybe you need to go and talk to someone else. But I genuinely think that, again, asking the right questions can really open someone up, because it's not that people are boring. It's that maybe they're not in the habit of communicating something, so they don't offer the same amount of information. Like, even some of the people I've had on this podcast, they're so interesting. And when I do my research on them, such fascinating people. But then when you first sit down to talk to them and you ask them a question, they'll give you like 1-2 word responses, because they're used to keeping it brief. And keeping it brief is important. Like, you don't have to waffle. That's another thing. Like, an interesting conversation is not when one person is monologuing at you. It's a dance. So you take one step forward and the other person takes one step forward, and it's like an exchange of ideas and energy. And that sounds pretty wishy-washy, but it's true. Like, don't monologue at people. Please don't monologue at people. And if you're getting monologued at, then like, break it up with questions. If you want to excuse yourself. And there's definitely ways of doing that. Just saying like, thank you for your time. I'm gonna go do something. I'm gonna go get a drink, or I'm gonna go chat to someone, or I need to quickly go say hi to someone. You can leave a conversation as well if you don't want to continue to have it, like, rather than standing there miserably. So that's number one. Number two is group conversations. So instead of trying to be the protagonist of the group and be the most interesting person in the group and the one who's always talking, because you have different levels and different characters and personalities within a group. You have the people who talk more, who constantly volunteer information. You have the people who talk less. And sometimes the best group conversations is when there's someone who is kind of the connector. So instead of trying to be the protagonist of a group conversation, be the connector. Try and include people in the circle. If someone is taking up a lot of the time, like, you can be like, that's so interesting. And then if someone says something else, try and connect those points together. A good conversation is like a mind map, because you want to have like the central idea and then all the linked ideas coming off, and you have the sub conversations. And this is also like when you tell a story, people are like, oh, what if you forget what you're talking about whilst you're speaking, or you don't get to the point? A conversation is not a line, it's a mind map. And so have your core information, and then you can give your anecdote, side story, this thing, and it allows other people to add like texture and layers and stuff onto it. Another thing people have asked me about is how to communicate with people who aren't necessarily your age, and there's like a really big age gap. This is especially for professional settings, because a lot of my friends right now, because I just finished university, are in their final year or they're at uni, and they want to have like conversations with people that they want to work for, or bosses, or network, and they're not sure how to communicate with people that are like 20, 30, 40 years older than them in a way that's like friendly but not too informal. And like, because there is a line there, and the advice of trying to learn from the other person is even more relevant here, because people who have more experience than you will have so many anecdotes. Think about the law that they have. And so asking them with genuine interest about their takeaways, their experiences, is such an interesting way to have a conversation. Also, you need to have your kind of catalog of stories in your brain, because when people ask you questions, if you don't have anything that you feel comfortable and ready to talk about, sometimes you panic and you talk about something a little bit irrelevant. So know what your boundaries are, what you're interested in, and what you want to share with people. It's kind of this whole idea of personal branding. Like, what do you want to communicate when you speak to new people? And you don't have to sit down and plan this. Don't rehearse it. Like, you don't have to script any of it. Just have in your brain like some bullet points of when you're going to a networking event. I want to talk about this thing in my work, and then if someone wants to ask me about my hobbies, I can talk about this. Because when you meet a new person and they ask you, so what do you do, or something like that, you won't have a brain freeze and stand there in silence like, what the hell do I say? So have your bullet points, and yeah, when you ask people questions, make sure that you're listening in a way that you're actually listening. I think a lot of us spend time listening in order to respond, and that's important, but actually listening to learn is when conversations become more fun. And when you act as if you can learn from the people around you, you just open your eyes up to so much more opportunities, because you go into whatever room you walk in with this mindset of like, I can get something out of this. Like, it's a positive, like me being here is positive, rather than like, oh, you know. Also, I think, like I said, around having something prepared, don't script it, but talk about the things that you love. If you don't want to talk about your work, if someone asks you what you do, you can like pivot the conversation. There is a talent of like, when someone asks you a question, redirecting it to talk about what you actually want to talk about, because you don't have to owe anyone any response. If someone asks you something that you don't want to say, like your age or what you do for work or where you're from, like, you don't have to answer. If someone says something that's a little bit offensive or boring or whatever, you don't have to answer. You don't have to react. You don't have to respond. And so I think that's really important. And the ways that I go around that is adding like pattern interrupts into conversations. So when someone asks me a question that I just feel like is boring, I will say something like guess. If they'll say like, where are you from, or how old are you? And I don't want to give the whole long story of like, I'm Indian, but I moved when I was young, and I also lived in Singapore, I also lived in Spain. I'll just be like, guess. Or I'll say something like, I'm Dora. And that's like, again, you have to view your conversations as if they are play, as if they are enjoyment and fun and like an art, rather than a necessity or like a means to an end. And this is not just with friends, this is with everyone. When you learn to just enjoy questions, enjoy speaking to people, communication, I'm telling you, it opens up like so much fun, opportunity, experience, insight. And so try these tips. What I said around questions, what I said around learning to actually use every person and every conversation as like a mentorship opportunity is so cool. And also just like study communication. So our voices are like an instrument. Learn to use your pitch, your speed, your variety, the volume at which you speak with, as a way to communicate like different things. Don't, like when you talk in a monotone voice really, really quietly, people are going to switch off because it's like very flatline. Learn to add a little bit more dynamism in your voice. And again, if you want to do that, just practice. Like, you can record yourself, you can talk at home, you can have a friend where like, okay, we're just gonna practice like chatting, because again, it sounds cringe and it sounds unnecessary, but the better you are at communicating, the more you can communicate to new people about the work that you do, about the interests that you have, and about your ideas. And there's so much to be gained from that. And so study yourself. Like, I told you, I watch videos back and I see this is how I talk, this is the speed at which I use. I have this habit of looking up or to the side when I'm thinking, and how can I bring that down and reduce that? And then, yeah, like, make it fun. Communication and connecting with people is supposed to be fun. And if you don't enjoy it, learning to make it more fun for you is how you can get stuff out of it. I think fun is genuinely the secret sauce to everything. And so, yeah, like, learn to make it fun. Okay, this one was short and sweet, but I just wanted to share this because I think having interesting conversations is so important. Communication is so important, and it links to every area of life, like relationships, work, happiness, success, confidence. And so take some time to study the communicator that you are, and then apply that. When you ask questions, build it up like it's a video game. Start with easy questions and then build it up, and use the cherry picking technique. Ask sub questions, be interested, try and learn from the people that you speak with, and make it fun. It's meant to be fun. And I hope that you found this episode fun. It was short, but like, I really just wanted to share these insights with you because I think that it's been one of my favorite parts. Like, I really love having interesting conversations with different people from different walks of life on this podcast. And I hope that you see that. And I hope this gives you the inspiration that you can have interesting conversations offline, online, and in different areas of your lives. Stay tuned for next week for another interview, and I can't wait to see you then. Bye-bye.